All right, guys, before we dive into today's episode of Patriots Today, subscribe to the channel. We're talking NFL draft on a weekly basis at this point. It's almost every single video as the Patriots are chasing a top pick. We got to get to 7,000 subscribers. If you want to be caught up on the latest Patriots draft rumors, hit that sub button. Can we get to 7,000 by Christmas Day? That's my challenge to you. Let's make it happen. Is USC quarterback Caleb Williams going to be the next quarterback of the New England Patriots? That's where we focus today's show on. I'm Harrison Graham from Chat Sports. We'll bring in Roley, a.k.a. Nick Rohloff, here in just a little bit. But let's take a look at the Caleb Williams draft odds that came out recently. And obviously the Bears do have that top pick, and with New England winning, are largely expected to get the number one overall pick. So they're the heavy favorites to draft Caleb Williams, who is expected to go number one, but Chicago could also trade out, so we'll see what happens there. Patriots plus 600, Giants plus 1,200, then you got the Cardinals and Raiders lurking a little bit lower than that. Now, here's what's pretty interesting. If the Chicago Bears keep winning and Justin Fields keeps playing better and better, it's still been a little bit of a roller coaster, but he has improved this year, they probably will not be in the market for Caleb Williams unless they're blown away. That's a phrase their GM, Ryan Poles, has used a lot. I got to be blown away to draft a quarterback. Said that last year, wasn't blown away. There was a report from Ian Rappaport that was pretty clearly leaked from Ryan Poles where he said it again. Is this blowing Poles away, these numbers from Justin Fields? I don't know, but you got to be sure. You got to be blown away by a Caleb Williams or a Drake May if you're Chicago to move on from Justin Fields, who has taken steps forward this season. QB rating of almost 105 in his last 6 starts, in which the Bears are 3-3 and very easily could be 5-1. So what Chicago will do, we'll see, but that certainly heavily impacts what could happen here with the New England Patriots, especially if they find themselves in a situation where they really love Caleb Williams. Like, they get the number 2 pick and they like both prospects. It's like, okay, fine. But if they fall in love with one over the other, then the only chance to guarantee yourself of getting him is you have to trade up and go get that guy. So Chicago having firm control of that top selection is a big deal when it comes to New England. Obviously, Roley, as I bring you in, that's what the downside of winning the other night was. It kind of did kill the dream of getting the number 1 overall pick, but still in a good position to get number 2. And again, if they really do love Caleb or Drake more than the other, you got to go move up if you want to get them.
Yeah, I mean, this becomes a little bit of a moot point, right? If, like, they're sitting there with the number 2 overall pick come April, and they're like, well, we kind of like Drake May equal to Caleb Williams, well, then this discussion that we're going to dive into about potentially trading up kind of vanishes, right? But it is intriguing to me looking at what Chicago will do, because I kind of am under the belief that Caleb Williams is such a generational prospect that the Bears, having the number 1 pick 2 years in a row, shout out to the Panthers for doing that for them, kind of should just take the generational QB anyway. They also would get to be able to reset the quarterback clock. But there is no denying that Justin Fields is turning some heads now in Chicago over the last 5 or 6 games, coming back from injury. He's been good. So that conversation is getting louder and louder for the Bears fans and the Bears organization on what they should actually do with that number 1 pick, whether it be drafting Marvin Harrison Jr. at number 1 overall to pair up with DJ Moore, or trading back maybe 1 or 2 spots, still taking MHJ, or maybe just doing what they did last year and trading back from 1 to 9 and still having potentially 2 top 10 picks, somewhere in that range. But the conversations are endless for Chicago. It's very intriguing in what they're going to do.
Yeah, and, you know, they're in an interesting spot. I mean, their GM, Ryan Poles, like, it's one of those where it's like, I don't envy being him, but it's also like it's got to be fun if you're him, right? I mean, every scenario is on the table. Like, you could keep Fields and continue to load up that roster, trade down with the New England, with another team to get more capital. You could, you know, say, hey, Justin, we like you, but we're going to trade you for a high pick. I mean, hell, what if Justin plays pretty well the rest of the season? They're actually able to trade him for a first-round pick for a team. I mean, you look at some of the quarterbacks, New England, around the NFL, it's not exactly like great play across this league. Like, the top-end players in this league are awesome, but you see quarterbacks trot out there every week that are just bad. And so, the Bears could opt to trade him and then draft a quarterback. So it's going to be very, very interesting, and it definitely impacts what the Patriots could do, whether they trade down or trade up or not, because what the Bears decide to do with that top pick obviously dictates on who could be available when the Patriots pick at 2 or 3 if they end up dropping another slot. Will the Bears draft Caleb Williams with that number 1 overall pick? What do you guys think? Type Y for yes, type N for no. I think it could go either way. I kind of wonder if the pendulum's swinging toward keeping Fields in Chicago. I think the final 4 games are going to be big for what the Bears decide to do, but let us know what you guys think. Y for yes, N for no. Will the Bears draft Caleb number 1 overall? And obviously the draft order is going to determine a lot because Arizona is a wild card in this. If they're in the top 3, would they want a quarterback or would they keep Kyler Murray? Do they want to get Marvin Harrison Jr.? Does New England kind of back into another win just like they did the other night? They got the Jets week 18. I know they just hammered Houston, but that feels like at least a possibility. Recent odds have come out per ESPN Analytics. Like I said, it's almost a done deal. The Carolina Panthers have to win at least twice down the stretch, if not 3 times, because as of now they have the strength of schedule advantage. So I don't see that happening. Patriots 3%, Cardinals 2% chance. Obviously top 2 pick odds. That's when it gets more interesting for teams beyond Chicago. Patriots 41%, pretty good. If they lose out, it's basically a guarantee because I don't think Arizona's strength of schedule is going to flip enough to overtake New England there. Top 3, Patriots are pretty much locked in there. They'd probably have to win twice over their final 4 games, and I think Rolly and I would both be pretty shocked by that. But again, if you're New England, you really want to be in that top 2. Like you really want to secure that number 2 pick because I still, I'm not drinking the Zappe Kool-Aid. Like I think I said it a few weeks ago. I would play him the rest of the way because I want to see if he can for sure be a quality backup. Because remember, they cut him on roster cutdown day because they didn't like his training camp at preseason. Played well against Pittsburgh. If he plays well the rest of the way, cool. You got a quality backup. Zappe does not have enough tools to be a franchise quarterback. He just doesn't. So I think that's what happens there. You trade Mac Jones for a day 3 pick, keep Zappe as your backup, draft a quarterback if you get a top 2 pick. The only question is, do you trade up to number 1? Does New England, whether it's Belichick running the show or someone else, fall in love with Caleb Williams with kind of the Patrick Mahomes light type of skills, right? Like the off-platform stuff, the Superman stuff he can do. He obviously has some flaws. He holds the ball too long sometimes, but the upside is massive there. Obviously, Rolly and I really like Drake May as well, but it'd be interesting, and I think the value of a trade would be interesting as well. How much would it cost to go from 2 to 1? We'll explore that as well, but first, let's talk about our sponsor, Prize Picks. We've been telling you about Prize Picks for a couple of months now. The best daily fantasy sports app out there because it's daily fantasy made easy. Monday Night Football doubleheader tonight. How fantastic is that? Perfect time to get going with Prize Picks. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Use our code CLNS to get a deposit match up to $100. We like the Moors tonight. Devon Achane, he's going to find the end zone. Whether it's rushing or receiving. Derrick Henry, Titans need to lean on the running game. Give me the more on the rushing yards there. Jordan Love's been cooking recently. I'll take the more on his passing yards against the Giants. And then Saquon Barkley, you would think New York's going to lean on him and not lean on Tommy Cutts DeVito. So this is 10 to win 100 here. You can win up to 25 times your money on any given entry. You can cross over sports. You can do them all within the same game. Doesn't matter. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. 2 to 6 player entries. Takes just seconds to place your entries. Use code CLNS to get a deposit match up to $100. You talk about Caleb Williams, who's had a decorated career starting at Oklahoma, followed his head coach Lincoln Riley to USC, and obviously won the Heisman Trophy. What's interesting about these top 2 quarterbacks is neither Caleb Williams or Drake May finished this season on a crazy high note. Neither struggled per se, but I don't think it was either of these quarterbacks' best football of their career, which is certainly fascinating. You wonder if that weighs into their kind of draft, not arsenal, but like status at all, where they're going to go. I still think they're going to go 1 and 2, but does it impact the value of a number 1 pick? Like maybe 3 months ago it was worth, let's just put on a scale, 100 points. Maybe it's worth 90 now. I don't know. But we know Caleb Williams is capable. He's dual threat. He can make all the throws. I'm curious to see what he measures in at. He's listed at 6'1", 218 at USC. I kind of wonder if he's more like 6 foot 210. But we'll see. We'll see. I think the measurement's going to be interesting and important for him. He's definitely bigger than Bryce Young. Like, this is not a Bryce Young situation where he's like 5'9", 5'10", 180 pounds. But Caleb Williams definitely isn't the biggest guy either, which, circling back to the Bears, Justin Fields, 6'3", 230. Do they want to go with a smaller quarterback who's less mobile? We'll see. That'll certainly be interesting what they decide to do there. And obviously when you scout Caleb Williams, he's got to play on schedule a little bit more. Like, you like the Superman stuff. You don't want to coach that out of him, but in the NFL, you got to find a balance. I mean, even Mahomes sits in the pocket and delivers the football consistently, so you certainly have to do that. But the traits are there. I mean, the Mahomes style of play, the arm strength, it's all – you see it on his tape, but sometimes you just got to take the 7-yard curl route too. Like, there's certainly nothing wrong with that. Should the Patriots trade up and draft Caleb Williams? Type 1 for yes, or you can type 2 for no. Let us know down in the comments below. All right, let's end this video here, and we'll bring Rolly back in for this part of the show. What would a trade look like to go up and get Caleb Williams? Well, let's go look at NFL draft history. There has never been a trade where a team moved up from the number 2 pick to the number 1 pick, which is very fascinating to me. I'm surprised it's never happened. We know firsthand that it almost happened last year. So the Bears traded down to Carolina from pick 1 to pick 9. Houston was involved in what basically would have made it a 3-team trade where Houston would have moved from 2 to 1. The Bears would have gone from 1 to 9 and Carolina from 9 to 2. Houston ended up backing out. So it almost happened. But I was a little surprised, Rolly, when we did this research that this had never happened. So not a ton of measurements to go off of, but this is what you cooked up.
I mean, Harrison, me and you sit next to each other here at Chat Sport. I was talking, I was looking to find some sort of framework. The closest thing we ever have is when, ironically enough, the Bears traded up from 3 to 2 to take Mitch Trubisky. But honestly, I had no clue. So I went with moving up 1 spot and also adding in a second-round pick, which is the 34th overall pick as we currently stand. It actually is too much to give up if you're New England. If you look at the trade chart calculator, that there's a website out there if you want to go
NFL
find
Draft
it yourself.
Tech, if anyone's interested.
Yeah, you could go find it. But, the one thing that is going to have to be thought of when you're thinking of what New England would have to do in order to trade up for that number 1 pick is other teams' interest. Because if there's a lot of teams interested in trading up for the number 1 pick, say like the Raiders or the Giants at picks 5, 6,
Washington.
7, those ranges, they're obviously going to offer more to Chicago to move up because they have to move up more. Now, the downside for the Bears is that they move back farther and are unlikely maybe to get Marvin Harrison Jr. if that's who they have in mind. So that's maybe a positive of the New England package. But if the teams like Washington in that range are offering multiple first-round picks to move up 4 or 5 spots,
right,
that's going to be maybe a package that they'd want to take more than New England's, because you're not going to offer multiple first-round picks to move up 1 spot.
No. And for those wondering, the Trubisky deal, they moved up from 3 to 2. Obviously, San Francisco got 3. They also got 2/3 and a 4th just to move down 1 spot. So the Bears kind of paid a lot. In this case, it's less picks, but it's a very high second-round pick in addition to the number 2 pick. So we'll see. I wonder if the Bears would maybe ask for a 4th as well just to sweeten the deal a little bit. But, there's pros and cons to Rolly's point. Chicago, there's a lot of belief that they would like Marvin Harrison Jr. if they don't draft a quarterback. So, to secure Marvin Harrison, stay in the top 2 or 3, and you can go get that guy if you are the Bears. Now, would you do this trade if you are New England? Type A for accept or D for decline. If I think it's close between Caleb Williams and Drake May, if I'm running the Patriots and I'm like, okay, Caleb Williams, he's a 96.2 on our grade scale, Drake May's a 95.1, I'd probably just stay at 2 and keep 34, go get a weapon at 34 as well, because if you go get Williams and give up your second-round pick, well, then you're not picking for a while, and you still have a lot of needs on this offense. So be interesting to see how it plays out. It's kind of a bummer that the Patriots have played themselves out of the number 1 overall pick, but you can't fault players for playing hard and winning a football game, so you certainly understand that as well. All right, guys, we'll be back with more Patriots content soon. Don't forget to subscribe. We're trying to get to 7,000 subs by Christmas. We'll see you soon.